This podcast is brought to you by sarahraven.com, which is home to everything you need for a truly beautiful and productive garden. You'll also find great and essential gardening kit and stylish, lovely things to have in your house to bring the outside indoors, all inspired by the garden and the house being tied together. There's also plenty of garden inspiration, how-to videos and specialist growing guides, so head over to sarahraven.com today to discover even more. Welcome to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven, and today I'm joined by one of our regular guests, who is Josie Lewis, who's the head gardener at Patch Hill. Welcome, Josie.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you back. So we're going to continue our 12 best series. So it's 12 best for this or that in terms of gardening. And today we thought it would be really nice at the beginning of the year to concentrate on one of the loveliest things of a garden, which is scent. And it's interesting. I was just thinking about this yesterday, and I was just thinking that I was in a bath with most incredibly delicious vetiver bath essence. And I was just thinking that, in fact, almost all the perfumes and the things we use to enhance our life in terms of scent are actually plant-based, aren't they, Josie? I mean, I was trying to think of any that weren't. And I suppose, you know, even something like ginger is maybe more food, but it's still a plant, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I'm just trying to think what in my, the perfume bottles that I buy, they have the breakdown. And it's all plant-based.
It's all plant-based. Yeah. I mean, and then even like a bath oil, a really nice bath oil is often got an almond oil as a sort of mother holding oil.
Yeah.
And then it's got essence of things sort of scattered through it. So it is remarkable how dominant plants, if not almost monopoly. Anyway, that apart, it just struck me as I was thinking about recording this episode. So I'm going to hand over to Josie, first of all, to give us our number one. And we're going to go through literally what are currently our 12 top absolute rocking favourites for perfume in a garden. So over to you for number one, Josie.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with a plant that people don't usually think of as being particularly scented, which is a tall bearded iris. And that's quite early in the year, May, June time. You always see so many of them at the Chelsea Flower Show for a good reason. But people don't often stick their noses in them, and you definitely should. So the one I was going to talk about was Sultan's Palace, which is a coppery maroon, flowering, May to June, about 70 centimetres. And I assume Sultan's Palace, not so much for the colour, but for the scent. So, it's quite evocative. Sultan's Palace, you'd think of all the different scents that were going on there. And you get an impression of that when you smell Sultan's Palace. We've got a complete iris nut working with us at the moment. Well, not at the moment. He's with us permanently, Joe, and he's sort of converting me continually to irises of all forms, but tall bearded iris are his passion, really. So, yeah, and we'll increase our stocks, I think.
Good. I mean, they are fleeting, but they are utterly, utterly marvellous when they flower. Funnily enough, I'm a massive fan of the florist who works from Dorset in Bridport called Jurassic, Jessie Booth. And I remember her, she was working in America with Saipur, with Sarah Rhiannon. And her sister's a very good friend of mine, Connie. And they sent me a list of things that they were thinking of growing on a bit of land that their father has at the back of his house. And they had put mainly bearded iris. And I said, gosh, are you sure? It's like, as long as you've got weddings between, the 20th of May and the 20th of June, fine. But what happens if you have something outside that season? And they said no, but the thing is they were so difficult to get hold of and they're so difficult to transport because they bruise easily. Actually growing your own transformed their arrangements for a month to such a degree that they were worth devoting the other, however many hours to looking after them.
Yes, yeah.
And just as you say, a lot of the reason why they were so obsessed with them is perfume. So it made me reconsider them again here. And we have got a really nice iris bed here that I actually put in during COVID. And I know you had reservations about it, but I think we both rather like it it is transient, but it is absolutely marvellous when it's there.
It is for those few weeks, as you say. And we've sort of shoehorned, they don't like company really. So we've shoehorned between each block some nerines for flowering later in the year. And I've just snuck a few tulip shogun in for a bit of early colour. So yeah, you can have a succession of colour even in an iris bed.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, so my number one is a plant that's evergreen, which is quite handy. So it's good right now, early in the year. I mean, it's not good, it's not outstanding, but it's there. It's got leaf on it. And that's Trachelospermum. And I know in London particularly, it's almost commonplace. People have it so much because it's both a sun and a shade tolerant climber, very slow growing, so doesn't need pruning, which is handy compared to a wisteria or, a lot of them. I mean, one of my favourite climbers is Vitis cognetii, but it's an absolute triffid and grows 60 foot a year. Yeah. Whereas the good old Trachelospermum, it really doesn't. It's a very slow grower, so it's a really good investment for a small town garden, which is why it's so incredibly prominent in London. But it has this wonderful, wonderful jasmine-scented flowers from sort of the middle of June till early August. And we have it here in the Oast Garden where I planted it 29 years ago. And we've lost one out of, I think, maybe 6. And for some reason, I don't know why, but it died. Maybe it got particularly frosted because it isn't 100% hardy. But here we are in East Sussex and we can go to -5, -6 here. Whereas in London, of course, you wouldn't. But it's for that perfumed, wonderful, Mediterranean sort of nostalgic perfume that I really love it. But I think it's one of the best all-round garden plants. And so I'm always rather pleased that it's so popular for city gardens.
Yes, yeah, lovely thing indeed. Talking of nostalgia, my next one's a sweet pea, or any sweet peas really. I mean, for fabulous scent, and we always say, it's something we remember from our grandma's gardens.
Yeah.
But as we're grandmas now, hopefully our children's children will say that as well. And I mean, top of the sweet peas is Mattiola, because we give that a 10 out of 10 for scent. It's the bicoloured magenta purple one, and it's the one which we measure all other sweet peas against, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, if you only grow one, then grow Mattiola.
And very relevant to this time of year because sowing into root trainers in January is exactly when we will be doing it and how we will be doing it.
Yes.
So it's particularly relevant to now. So NB, nudge, nudge, everybody, don't forget to sow your sweet peas.
Sow your sweet peas. It's that time of year. Yeah.
It's that time of year. And they're easy to grow and easy to look after. And they will be absolutely marvellous, providing wonderful perfume right the way through, from sort of mid-May to mid-July, really.
Yeah, they don't like the heat of summer, which is why they tend to tail off. But I mean, the one of the main things that you need to do with the sweet peas once you've got your seedlings growing well is to get them out early. They'll put up with a degree of cold. They're happier planted March time.
Yeah, which is why sowing them now is a really good thing. Which is
perfect. Yes, yeah. You don't leave them languishing till May. They'll hate you for it. Get them out in March.
So true. So true. So again, for early sort of thing that's not for planting now, but will soon be perfuming the garden here is Narcissus actaea. And I think you have slightly mixed feelings about actaea, which we'll come back to. But I just love it for its very generous naturalizing habit. We planted, I think, a bag of 25 actaea here. I think probably about 12 or 15 years ago. And I would say there are probably 1,000 in that place now. So each bulb has gradually produced bulbils. So I don't think it's spread by seed. I think it's spread by bulb division. And gradually each one of those, just like with a snowdrop, has made 10 or more. And so it's gradually spread into this fantastic carpet. And, like with lots of these things, it's relatively transient. It looks good from the middle of March until the middle of April, maybe 3 to 4 weeks. But the joy that being able to go out and pick a massive fistful of flowers and bring it in, and it has a good vase life. So I have a really nice green ceramic vase. I just jam pack it full of those beautiful scented flowers without any guilt whatsoever, because it's perfectly happy being picked and it will naturalize even better without the seed heads on it. And anyway, the foliage will be cut back, but not until the end of May. And it then becomes invisible. But during its high point, it's the smell of that whole area of the garden, which is the east face, the bank on the end of the school. And the smell, the fragrance in our house is just ecstatic. It's so delicious. And it comes so early in the year. So that's why I'm a big fan of it.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we don't all love the Narcissus scent profile, but outside they're absolutely fine. It's when you get them inside, I find them a bit, I don't want to say offensive, but overbearing.
Yes. Okay, good. And back to you, Josie.
Yeah, it's another one we might slightly disagree on here, which is a rose, which is called Scent from Heaven. I mean, a very corny name, but it does actually describe it. It's a pale orange, apricot-y coloured rose, but the scent is just magnificent. I know you don't love the colour particularly, which is why we've moved it.
I'm slightly coming round to it, but I find it's a sort of edgy orange. I'm a big fan of orange, but I just find it's sort of somewhere between yellow and orange in not the best way. But you are absolutely right that there is no doubt that the perfume is one of the strongest I've ever come across.
Yeah.
And is very long flowering. So, it was flowering until November on the east face of the school again here.
Yeah, because we've moved it to that east side and it seems really happy there. We put it against a building. It's what they call a modern climber, so it'll get to 2.5 meters, something like that. So it's not an overpowering climber. It's a really, really worthwhile, controllable one.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to come on to a rose then, so I'm going to jumble up my order a little bit, which is I'm going to mention the rose Sweet Honey. And I just, there are so many roses that have good scent, but Josie and I try and filter so that we can recommend to people plants that we really think are absolutely exceptional in many ways. And for me, Sweet Honey is exceptional for 3 or 4 reasons. The first is it has this rather lovely colour, which is quite changeable. And so it sort of goes from a pink to almost like a peach. It kind of fades to quite a gentle colour. And fun enough, it almost perfectly matches a dahlia called Peaches, which, again, is quite controversial. You either love it or you hate it. It's one of those colours, and it's a sort of ivory and peachy colour, bicolour, decorative, almost becoming more like a pom-pom variety, but it is actually classified as a decorative, I believe. Anyway, back to the roses. The reason I'm so keen on Sweet Honey is how long it flowers. So it's got really, really good, pretty solid flushes of flower from end of May right the way through into November. So I was doing some classes at the end of October, last week of October this last year, and I was able to pick dahlia peaches with this rose, Sweet Honey. And I was able to pick really, really quite a lot of it. And do you know what? It lasted nearly 2 weeks in a vase. So the scent is incredible, which I haven't yet mentioned, but that was one of the main reasons. And that's why it's in this episode. The colour is really extraordinary. It's very, very healthy. We don't use any sprays here and it's very happy. It's quite vigorous, and what that is handy. So it's, again, one of these sort of almost like climbers, but not quite. And it just has this exceptionally long flowering season. So I'm actually going to encourage Josie, we're going to plant more of Sweet Honey this winter, because I just think it is just such a cracking variety for all those reasons.
Yes, definitely. It shines out in that bed, doesn't it? It
really does.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to you.
So another, probably my top scent is a honeysuckle, Lanicera Graham Thomas. And
Lovely.
to me, that has got the most fabulous fragrance of any of the plants. This one flowers sort of slightly later in the year, so you've got it June to September. It's a white fading to cream. It's a sort of clotted cream. It's not quite yellow. It's really rich cream colour it fades to. And it's quite vigorous. It'll get up to 5 metres. And I first came across it when I moved into the house that I now live in, which is, it's some 25 years ago. And it's the only plant that's still there, the only original plant. So everything else has been gradually changed. But the honeysuckle is, and it's in the most inhospitable place. It sits between it's the corner of an east and a south facing wall. It's got a tiny little pocket of soil, and I can cut it to the ground. If I need to paint or whatever, cut it right down. It'll be back within a few weeks and flowering again, a few weeks later. And of course, the scent for that is more intense in the evening. So, if you're planting Graham Thomas, then make sure it's near windows or, somewhere where you'd pass it by in the evenings. It's just fabulous. And it's here now. So I've brought cuttings to Perch Hill, and it's gradually populating every wall here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cracker. I remember it from when I was a child. It's a really old variety, isn't it? Yeah, it's wonderful. So again, another very traditional scent would be my next choice, which is a stock. But we actually did a stock trial here in the greenhouse, funnily enough, because I really love to try and bridge the gap between when the garden is full of flowers to pick in the autumn and when they start again in the spring. And the greenhouse provides a sheltered accommodation, basically, for plants that you can force into flower earlier than they naturally would to give us a harvest. And so we had just the classic biennial stocks in a trial here. And to be honest, we were really disappointed. And the main reason is that they don't, almost all of the sort of so-called Brompton stock varieties, which are the ones that you get as cut flower crops, really don't branch if you pinch them. So we tried across 12 different varieties, pinching them out. And actually, it really doesn't have the effect that you get with almost all annuals and biennials, which is getting axillary bulb formation and so more bulky growth and lots and lots and lots of smaller stems. If you remove the main stem, it doesn't have that physiological effect on the plant. But there are varieties, which are the wild ones, which are the Mattiola and Carnas, that you will see all over the Mediterranean, literally growing on cliffs. And there is a deep purple Mattiola incana, which is the native species, which I've collected seed from in Greece in the past. And then there's also a white called pillow talk. And that is perennial here in a sort of semi-shaded spot underneath our weeping pear tree, underneath my bedroom window. That has perennialized. And so it's not biennial. It is genuinely the mother plant, does scatter herself, and she self-seeds around, which is exactly what you'll see in cliffs in the Mediterranean. But the mother plant lasts from one year to the next. And the perfume of that, you only need to have, 4 or 5 sprigs by your bed or in a bathroom, or if you've got friends coming to stay for the night. And I just put that in the room, and the whole place has got that intense, delicious clovey scent. So I personally think the incana, the more perennial forms, rather than the classic Brompton stocks, and they have a better vase life. So if you sear the stem ends in boiling water, the Mattiola incanas will last a week, whereas the classic Brompton stocks, it's more like 4 or 5 days. And then they are part of the brassica family, and you'll find that they start to smell quite cabbagey and not very nice. So you've got to change their water daily anyway, but you don't get that with the incanas because they've got a much more woody texture. So they're better lasting and they don't smell. horrible. They just smell utterly delicious. So that would be my next recommendation.
Yes.
So back to you, Josie.
So I'm going for something we use quite a lot in containers over the summer here, which is a heliotrope. Common name is, I'm sure people will know it as cherry pie.
Yeah.
It's got a lovely, cherry pie, sort of an almondy vanilla scent, isn't it? And the lovely purple flowers. I mean, there's the more commonly known ones like Midnight Sky, which tend to be a bit blobby, but if you've got more squat containers, they look okay in those. But the scent is lovely. But the one we love is Reva, which is much more elegant, taller growing, paler flowers, but still the lovely scent to it. And it's quite perennial. We overwinter it in polytunnels and take cuttings from it, and it comes back year after year.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with that very much.
A heliotrope, definitely something you need in your summer containers.
You do. And Reva is just splendid.
It's
great. It's just more graceful. And as you say, it's not dumpy like quite a lot of them.
No.
So my next one would be sort of similar to the heliotrope in that it's a tender perennial that hails originally from South Africa. So it's a sort of tender perennial from warmer climates. And I am absolutely mad on scented leaf pelargoniums for late year picking. So we've bred our own one. Well, that isn't true, actually. Lord Cavendish bred the one I'm about to talk about, which is called Cavendish. And he really kindly and sweetly gave me a plant of a chance seedling between Papilacum pelargonium and Tomentosum. And I have talked about it before, so I'm not going to dwell on it. But you've got this exceptional leaf, really big. I mean, if I put my two hands out in front of me, the two palms of my hands, some of the leaves are at least that size, and they're felted like Tomentosum. And they have an even more delicious scent than Tomentosum, which is minty, because they've got that sort of classic attar of roses perfume layered through as well, almost blackcurranty. And I have had a vase of that in the kitchen here that Josie picked for me with some chrysanthemums in November. And it's lasted already 6 weeks and it's showing absolutely no sign of aging. So that is literally my winter vase in the window here for a 2 to 3 month duration. Exceptional. And whenever I walk past it, I just give the leaf a little squeeze and it releases that perfume into the room. And so I'm crazy about them as scented cut flowers. And they're not things that throw their scent unless you crush them, but they are just so fantastic. And so Pelargonium Cavendish is right at the top of my list. Equal pegging first with attar of roses, which we use a lot in the kitchen here because it has the scented rosy pelargonium perfume. But do you know what? I think any of the scented leaf pelargoniums with their stem ends seared in boiling water for 5 seconds, then into cold, then into a vase, you honestly will get a vase life of about 2 months. And so they're just a lovely thing for January, February, March. If you can cut them back, if you've got a cold frame or a polytunnel or a window ledge and use the foliage in a vase, they need cutting back anyway. And then you've got the double bonus that the plant's going to be better, the mother plant, but also you've got some stems to decorate your house through the winter time. So I'm a massive fan.
You might get the advantage of them rooting as well. So
exactly.
I'll be potting them up in February.
Exactly. They're just, I'm crazy about them.
Yes.
So that's a really important one for me.
Yeah.
And back to you.
So my final one is Acidanthra murali, which is a bulb you grow it from a corn. It's like a gladiolus, sometimes called the Abyssinian gladiolus or peacock orchid, is it? Peacock orchid, I think.
Yes.
So it's a lovely thing to have because it flowers from August onwards, when all the glads and things with that upright foliage have mostly gone over, then the Acidanthra shine. So it's a white flower and it's got a maroon throat to it. So it's like, it'll fit in with a lot of colour schemes, but it's got that scent as well and makes a fabulous cut flower. It'll last for a long time as a cut flower. and it's you plant them up April, May time, so they're not particularly frost hardy. Ours come back, don't they? Here, which is you wouldn't expect them to, but you'd lift them like a dahlia if you're on heavy cold soil. But ours seem to come back.
Like a dahlia, they don't come back if you leave them in pots, but they do come back if you leave them in the ground and mulch them. Is that your experience too, Josie?
Yes, yeah. I mean, a dahlia would come back in a pot, but the Acidanthras, tend not to. They're much better in the soil if you can get them in the soil. But yeah, if you're, as you say, if you're putting them in a pot, then take them out and store them in a net and then replant them next spring. And they're such good value, aren't they? I mean, you can get out like 100 corms for less than £20. Oh, it's fantastic. I don't know why every garden isn't full of them, to be honest.
Yeah, true. I know. I think it's because they've got the reputation of not being hardy, and that people used to plant them before climate change, and that they didn't come back. And so they seem quite extravagant, almost like the grandiflora gladiolus. But we find now, even those, we manage to overwinter.
Yes.
But I do think climate change has made all the difference.
Yes.
Okay, so my last one is a shrub, and I couldn't decide between a shrub Josie and I absolutely love, which is Abelia grandiflora, which we have lots of in the garden here now because we love it so much. And the next one, which actually I have chosen Elaeagnus quicksilver because we talk about Abelia grandiflora quite a lot, and I don't want to bang on. So I've gone for Elaeagnus quicksilver. And it's a short-lived shrub. It's one of those shrubs, I would say, that if you get 10 years out of it, you're doing exceptionally well. If you get 5, that would be 5 to 7 is kind of what I would expect. But we are on very heavy clay soil here. And it's one of those plants that you kind of hardly notice. It's elegant. It looks a bit like an olive. It's got silvery leaves. I'm sure lots of you know it. But the thing that you suddenly notice is its perfume. And it's just at the time when I think you really need it, which is all those early scented sarcococca, daphne, hamamelis, all those things have gone. So we're getting into May, and then suddenly you've got wisteria and the Elaeagnus quicksilver. And we have both wisteria and Elaeagnus quicksilver in the Dutch yard here. And you walk in and honestly, you're sort of knocked back on a sort of warm day where the bricks are radiating up through the flowers. You just get this exquisite perfume. And it's a strange scent. It's slightly gingery, slightly spicy. It's not unlike a Daphne, actually, for that, which I always think almost reminds me of a sort of Moroccan souk with fragrance in it, because it's got that slightly spicy sort of undertone. But Elaeagnus quicksilver, wowzer, it's just got the most beautiful, beautiful scent. Flowers only last about a month, maybe even less, but they are so worthwhile when they come. So if I was planting a scented garden, I would definitely, that would be at the top of my list, particularly for that sort of May into June gap where there isn't so very much around for perfume.
Yes, definitely. And such a pretty thing as well. The leaves are so lovely to look at.
It's such a versatile, that colour, that silvery colour is so versatile, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
That's fantastic, Josie. Thank you so much
for
all those tips. And I hope you found that interesting and useful, everybody. But obviously now is a really good time to start thinking of scenting up your garden. And so scattering really lovely fragrant plants all the way through your borders, just to add that final extra layer of beauty to your space just outside your back door. And that is how Josie and I try to think all the time, is could we add something just as a climber or as a shrub or, as a background plant, but that would just add that extra layer of sort of sensory experience. So there we are. Thanks so much for listening to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange with me, Sarah Raven, and Josie Lewis, talking about scented plants. Next week, I'm joined by Arthur Parkinson again, and we're going to talk about our 12 favourite self-seeding annuals and biennials. So it's a good theme with Arthur that I've had over the last couple of months on low-maintenance gardening and the things that look after themselves and self-seed so that you don't have to plant them every year, which is something that Arthur's increasingly interested in. So join me and Arthur next week.
You can find more information, photos and advice sheets on all the plants and recipes we talk about on this podcast by heading to the show notes or at sarahraven.com/podcast.